Be cheesy here, play some music. What's up, guys and gals? Welcome back to another edition of Light the Fuse, right here, somewhere, Silvio, patreon.com/Hami Media Group, as well as YouTube. We're live. We're recording this for you here today on Thursday, April 15, 2021. I'm your host on the scene of the air is Clayton. I'm lighting up that green, yeah boy, MSG. It's been a while since I lit up the green here, and it's been a while since I've been with you, the AEW listener, and of course on the 2020 wrestling review show of the year, Light the Fuse, with my bros. But Bin Hameen is off taking over the islands right now. But of course, I'm not alone. Each and every week, he's the star of this show. He's back, Mr. Too Cold Sexy himself, Mr. Chris Silvio. How you doing, sir?
I'm fantastic. Missing our good pal Ben Hameen today, but it's nice to have old MSG. Bake Boy himself, Matthew Schaffer Gage, back in the house here on Light the Fuse. Lots to talk about this week, man. We got lots of news. We had an interesting Dynamite show. WrestleMania weekend just happened. New champions, old champions. So it's a crazy week here in wrestling, bro.
It has been a very interesting week in wrestling. You know, I paid attention this last week, and I did watch for both nights of WrestleMania, or at least all of night 2. I watched part of night 1. The McIntyre and Lashley match, I thought, was a great match on night 1, and I also won $100 thanks to Bovada. So, thank you, Bobby Lashley.
You on Bet Kings, or you made your own bet?
Bovada, I did it on Bovada. Yeah, okay. Lashley was like plus 500, so I bet like $50 and won $50. So it was nice. So I was like, sweet, cool. Thank you, Bobby Lashley. Appreciate you, dog. So yeah, we had that. I didn't catch Monday Night Raw. From what I heard, the after Mania Raw did not live up to the hype it normally has over the last couple years. And then, we have Dynamite. And you, of course, said you had some hot stories, some inside knowledge from the world of professional wrestling over the course of the last weekend, as you are in the heart of WrestleMania this last weekend. So before we get there, I did have just a couple of different notes here before we got to Mania to kind of set up tonight. So AEW last week, they did a show called The House Always Wins. It was a house show, non-televised. However, this set up for a lot of the matches for tonight, as well as what the ongoing feuds are going to be setting up. So they had just a recap of a couple of matches. They had a TNT title shot battle royal, which set up tonight's main event. And Matt Hardy obviously won that, as he ended up fighting Darby Allin tonight. You had MJF, Dax Harwood, and Cash Wheeler. They took on with Sean Spears. They took on Jungle Boy, Luchasaurus, Daniels, and Dante Martin. They beat them. You had Jade Cargill, Duval, Best Friends in action. So a couple of things. I think the big thing, of course, was the TNT fallout, was the TNT Championship match setup. They also had Darby Allin defeating Butcher. And then they had the 2 marquee matches where Cody Rhodes getting his hands on Aaron Solo. So what did you have any thoughts on that quickly at all? I mean, as far as, did you get a chance to take note of that show?
Yeah, Seidel had a very high profile match. He and the Seidel brothers, Mike and Matt, with they had some great partners. I think it was Death Triangle with them versus the Elite. They had a hell of a match. But my question to you, Matt, is how did you, this was a house show, it was not televised. How did you find out about what angles were set up there? They mentioned a couple things on Dynamite, but outside of that, where would you find that information? I
did not find out any information until I watched Dynamite. I watched Being the Elite, and they kind of mentioned it briefly. Matt Hardy mentioned taking on Darby Allin. I was like, oh, Matt Hardy's going to fight Darby Allin. I guess I'll find out more. And then they did kind of explain a little bit, but that was really the only thing that was hype. At least they cut to something, though, right? At least they actually referenced some video package tonight on the show.
It's a good start. What it's kind of like, man, is you remember playing telephone in elementary school, where like I whisper to you, dog catcher, and by the time it gets to the 20th kid in class, it's whistle. It seems like that's kind of like the communication pipeline when they try to communicate what's happened on BTEs and darks and House Always Wins. The message kind of comes out a little loose in translation. So good thing is we did get a couple videos from the event to tell us what happened.
Yeah, we got a couple of different recap packages as they highlight throughout the night. So that was the notable, I guess, news as far as AEW. Then we had WrestleMania weekend. As I mentioned, I liked the Lashley McIntyre match. I thought the main event of night 2 was a WrestleMania main event. I walked away going, wow, finally, like, I've been waiting for a good WWE WrestleMania event for a couple of years, and I think that they fully executed it, and the right guy won. I was happy to see Roman win because I like this Roman Reigns heel character, head of the table. You know, he's got the, what is it, his sidekick there, Jay, I forget the moniker they gave him, the made man, the
right hand man.
The right hand man. So yeah, I liked that. You know, the tag team match with AJ Styles the night before, a Big E's match I liked as well. Sheamus and what did Sheamus take on for the Matt Riddle, right? That was a kind of a quick match. Matt Riddle was a little interesting. He's kind of a character. So that was kind of the first time I've watched him. I don't think there was anything. Oh, and then the Cesaro and Seth Rollins match, I then put it over, so I went back and watched it, and that was probably one of Seth Rollins' best matches I've seen on pay-per-view. And Cesaro won, so that was cool to see Cesaro get the proverbial brass ring, if you will, at WrestleMania. He got his WrestleMania moment. So, any thoughts on WrestleMania? And then I know you had some stories that you wanted to talk about.
Yeah. A very nice moment for Cesaro, who's busted his ass for a long, long time. So I'm glad he got at least that moment. Did you watch the main event of night 1, Bianca and Sasha?
I did not. I heard that there was some mixed reaction. Some people seemed to really like it. Others thought it was a poor match. Not that they didn't think Bianca Belair didn't win. They just thought that the match itself wasn't the best. What did you think?
It certainly was not a poor match. I was happy to see it for everything it signifies. 1, 2 women main eventing WrestleMania. 2 black women representing the women's division in the main event of WrestleMania, I think is historical. And they both busted their ass. They did their absolute best, and I thought the match was damn good. You know, it's probably not going to go down as like the greatest WrestleMania match of all time, but I think it will go down as one of the most significant matches of all time. But I like the card. In some places, for me, it really was a 2-match card. Bianca and Sasha, and then the men's main event on night 2, Roman, Bryan, and Edge. I kind of disagree with you slightly on who should win, though. So hear me out on this. Edge should have won that match. If they didn't want Edge to, be champion, cool. Take it away from him on the next pay-per-view. Have what just happened in that match happen on the next pay-per-view. Something happens, Roman gives him the concerto, loses the belt, and then maybe Edge comes back for revenge against Roman later, maybe even in a retirement match, and Roman beats him, keeps his heat. But that story was so beautiful and well built for a while, this Cinderella comeback story. And we ended WrestleMania on a down moment, which has only happened, to my knowledge, maybe 3 times at most. The only other one I could think of was Austin turning heel on The Rock at 17. But there might have been another one. But usually you send them home happy. So they either should have did that or reversed the night 1, night 2 main event. I also didn't like the fact that they dragged Edge on top of Bryan, and Roman stacked them both. I don't think that did many favors for either Edge or Daniel Bryan.
You don't think it could have set up like a future, like technically Edge wasn't pinned then, right? Because he pinned over Bryan. He was technically.
They could. They won't, but they could.
And my other thought, I mean, and not to argue with you, my counterpoint on the Edge situation was when the last time he was a current active wrestler before he retired, right? He won the Rumble, he beat Del Rio, and then he retired. So to me, I don't know, I thought it was interesting because him coming back, winning the Rumble, but this time losing at Mania, it's kind of a, I guess, the yin and yang of Edge's Royal Rumble WrestleMania adventure for the championship.
Now, there's a way it could have been done. Like I was debating this point with Jenna when she was asking me about the finish, and she was like, man, Edge should have really won that, or maybe even Bryan. I get it, because Bryan has been saying this could be his last Mania. And we know Edge doesn't have that long left in him. Who knows how long of a deal he even signed, right? So I could understand if they wanted to keep the belt on Roman. For business reasons. Idea 1 was the one I laid out to you, give him the feel-good moment, and then he takes it away at the pay-per-view or the following one. Number 2, it could have just been a singles match. with Roman and Edge.
Right.
And we had Edge give everything he had. More of a straight wrestling match. They could have done a few things on the floor, but more of a straight wrestling match. Edge gives everything he has, almost beats this bastard Roman Reigns. Right when it looks like Edge has got him, Paul Lee taps Edge's leg or grabs his foot or something. He kicks Paul Heyman off, turns around, bang, there's the spear from Roman. Roman grabs him in that guillotine choke. Edge is almost at the ropes, collapses in the middle of the ring. That's the end. So we make Edge look great and like, oh, fuck, if Edge was 20 years younger, he would have definitely won that shit. But that's not what we got. We got him concertoed and stacked on top of another guy in pin 1, 2, 3.
Well, unfortunately for Edge, he did not capture the WWE Championship, and we'll look to continue that, I guess, quest for it further down the line. I don't know. I didn't watch the night after Mania. I guess the Viking Raiders maybe returned. I guess that was the big thing. People were saying on Monday night the Viking guys came back or something. That's what someone told me. Mr. Rick Vickery told me. So check out the Monday Locker Room. I'm sure he'll have more information on next week. Of course, we are brought to you by thebrosters.com. It's been a while since I forgot to do all the readings here. Thebrosters.com. Pick up your bag of Russo Bro coffee. Use the code 5LB. You'll save about $10 off your big bag, as well as if you just pick up a regular bag, you now get 33% more in your Russo 1 pound bags. 1 pound, 3 ounces. So go ahead and pick up another bag of Russo Bro coffee. Check out ZordosOliveOil.com for the finest artisan Greek olive oil. CBRichardsFitness.com. Grab a resistance band. Join the sensations through the nation. And go to all of these Talents Pro Wrestling Tees stores. There's a wholesale going on right now, 20% off. Just go to ProWrestlingTees.com/Superstar Chris Silvio, Bit Amin, BWO Stevie, SEG Shirts. We got Papa Don, and I believe our Rad Rob's got his own shirt there too, who did a heck of a job last week for Rad Mania. So go check out all of that apparel. I'm also sponsored by theBakeBoysClub.com. Use my code SuckMyBalls, and you'll save 15% off. Wow. That's the name of my show, so check that out, Suck My Balls Pod. Anyway, let's talk about some stories here. You know, the last thing I heard about Matt Morgan was he was running for a mayoral office or some sort of government office. Sylvia, what news do you have on him?
Yes, I found this very interesting because I've been following the investigation of Joel Greenberg and Florida Congressman Matt Gaetz. Are you familiar with the situation?
I'm not familiar. I have had a couple days off. I have not paid attention.
Okay, here's the basic gist of Gaetz and Greenberg. Greenberg is a very Matt Gaetz is a very outspoken Florida congressman.
The Trump guy, right? He's a Trump supporter,
yeah.
for sure.
He got elected around Trump, and he did the Make America Great campaign himself. He's been a very vocal ally. Younger guy, about close to our age, right? His good buddy, Joel Greenberg, was a tax collector in Seminole County, Florida. And he got busted, it's been a while, maybe a year ago, for using money from the county for personal things. Then in this investigation, it came out that this Greenberg guy was alleged to have sex trafficked a minor. Where the story goes, he paid an underage girl to travel to meet him and possibly Gaetz, Matt Gaetz, Congressman Gaetz, for sex in which she was compensated. It's a long fucking story, but just look it up if you want to hear about it. They got texts out in the media and stuff like that. So this guy's already in jail, this Greenberg guy, and he's awaiting trial. News hit this week that he might be flipping on his good buddy Matt Gaetz. Greenberg was kind of like the fall guy. He would set the shit up because he was a smaller fish, and it looks like Gaetz would, reap the benefits of him. They were doing like seeking arrangements and sugar daddy stuff. So how does Matt Morgan tie into this?
Right.
Well, you mentioned he was a former mayor. I believe it was Longwood was the county. I'll see if I can verify that at some point through this story. But Matt Morgan was this mayor, and then he transitioned to...
Yep, you're right, Longwood, Florida.
Yep, Longwood, Florida. And then he transitioned to another position. He wasn't the mayor, but I think he was on like city council or something like that. And he formed a LLC, Blueprint Enterprises LLC. Matt Morgan did. And when they did this investigation of the tax collector Joel Greenberg, who's now jailed, they noticed that a lot of payments were going to this Blueprint LLC in the amount of $4,500 monthly. to Blueprint LLC. And they have not been able to uncover any record of any work done by Blueprint LLC that would necessitate $4,500 a month. One of the other charges against this gentleman, Greenberg, who was paying Blueprint LLC, was that he created no-show jobs, Tony Soprano style, and ways to get money to his family and friends. So an example of that would be like, hey, I'm going to give you, Maddie, you want a job with me? Okay, we're going to call you a state stamp collector. You're going to go out and collect stamps. You just chill at home and get a paycheck. So I don't know what Matt Morgan's involvement is with this guy. He clearly has enough of a relationship for that. Will it come out that Matt Morgan was going to these? Because they were allegedly having these like politician-filled like sex parties. They mentioned like coke and ecstasy was going around. Please investigate this yourself. You can find it everywhere. It's on every media site, the Greenberg and Matt Gaetz tale. Just yesterday, Matt Morgan from the same area of Florida is now kind of caught up in that. Let me make it clear. There's been no allegations made against Morgan, no files charged. He has not been alleged in sex trafficking, anything like that. But he was getting money from this disgraced tax collector.
Right. Allegedly. Right, exactly. We don't know. But yes, that's a crazy story. And then
we didn't know he was getting the money.
We did know. He's getting the money. So what is he getting paid for? That's a good question. You know, it would be kind of shocking if Matt Morgan ended up being in some sort of sex trafficking ring where he's maybe not necessarily doing it, but maybe he knew it happened, and maybe he got paid to just not say anything too. So there could also be that.
That's very possible, dude. What the girl mentioned was a 17-year-old girl. And it wasn't trafficking in the sense of like you kidnap a girl from Sweden and bring her to the US and make her have sex with people for money, right?
Right.
It was a 17-year-old girl who allegedly had a profile on one of these seeking arrangement sites. And the men involved knew she was 17 and still paid for her to fly to meet them at wherever their party was and then compensated them for sex. They even got a hold of Matt Gaetz's Venmo information, and it shows him making like $200-300 payments at like 4 a.m. to the Greenberg fellow who's now in jail.
Oh,
and one of them listed the tuition and books as the reason for the
payment. Gotta pay for that school, I guess, right? Well, Frank asked a good question. Is it 17 okay in Florida? Is that considered a legal consensual age? Is that, no, it's not. Okay. Just to see if there's any loopholes or anything like that that they could try to get around.
And he's a congressman.
And he's a congressman.
That would be an ethics violation.
That's a fair point. Well, another person who continues apparently to get himself in hot water is Teddy Hart. And you, on the CSI investigation case, you've been following this now for at least the last year and a half we've been doing the show. Chris Silvio, what do you have an update on Teddy Hart today?
Ted's back. He got in a little altercation that fans you can find on Twitter. Just look up Teddy Hart GCW or Teddy Hart WrestleMania weekend. There's a video floating around. Long story short, Janela had his GCW thing where a bunch of promoters ran there, and it ran all day long, just a bunch of different shows. And Teddy Hart showed up at the end of one show. And one of the performers in the ring, a deathmatch wrestler named John Wayne Murdoch, in the middle of what looked like his match, called out Teddy Hart, who was seen standing in the crowd, called him some names, told him to get the fuck out. You're not welcome here. Teddy Hart claimed he bought a ticket and he brought people to see him, to support the event. But anyway, Teddy gets thrown out of the event. And then there's some heat on Janela and GCW because evidently Teddy Hart had been hanging around. I don't know if he did any of the other shows there that day, that I cannot speak of, but they had to eat some heat for having Ted around. I do know this. I'm not going to mention names, but I do know of at least one show that Teddy Hart was booked on and did appear for in Florida. Take that for what you will. If you feel like Teddy Hart should be getting booked right now. But I think a lot of the wrestling community would probably not be too happy with that.
Yeah, I think the consensus right now in the wrestling community is they would like to see Teddy Hart no longer be an active competitor, entertainer, on-screen character, individual member within the wrestling society itself, as he's kind of left a poor blemish over the last 4 to 5 years And unfortunately, over the course of his career, hasn't been, the most positive outcome.
And dude, I'm all about second chances, third chances. I love a redemption story. But this is going to be Ted's like 10th chance. I think the last incidents involving Maria Manic, involving Ace Montana, and then the subsequent 2 more arrests, I think that's it on Ted's chances, and especially with all the domestic violence stuff that came in. Ted's admitted to working with an escort agency. He phrased it a little bit differently, but from what I understood of the situation, he ran escorts. Then he had the domestic violence situation with Maria. We have the case of the missing young woman who used to date Ted. So with all 3 of these things, and now that we're hitting that domestic violence, you got to consider the safety of the women there. You got to consider the safety of the fans, the wrestlers. Is it a look you want on your show?
Definitely a lot to take into consideration there. And if you are going to choose to book Teddy Hart on your promotion, on your platform, you're going to be taking a very high volatile risk that he may bring some bad publicity to your brand. So
I will not appear on any event that Ted's on, and anybody affiliated with me will be instructed to do the same.
There you go. So don't even hit up Silvio if you know Teddy Hart is going to be on that show.
Unless he agrees to a sit-down interview with me for 2 hours.
Oh, yeah, exactly. This Silvio Files. Well, that's some of the highlights of news there. Let's get into some AEW news. I haven't been here for a couple of weeks, so I thought we should recap and break down some of all the information here. So, Silvio, unfortunately, Dynamite has kind of been on a little bit of a slide when it comes to ratings since I've left the show, or I haven't been here the last 3 weeks. We had 768,000 viewers on March 17th. We had 757,000 viewers on March 24th. We had 700,000 viewers on March 31st. And then last week, granted, yes, it was NXT's pay-per-view special, we had 688,000 viewers. Is that a cause for concern over 1 month now, Silvio, that we continue to see this downward trend of viewership? And is there something they should be doing? I know they brought back Mike Tyson. Last night, we'll see if that helps the ratings. But it does seem like there seems to be a downward trend, and now speculation's already out there. AEW's going downhill. Chris Jericho's going to jump back to WWE. That's why he did that interview with Stone Cold. What do you think?
Yeah, it's 100% concern with the ratings declining, some of the programming. Did you happen to watch last week or listen to Hameen and my review?
I did watch last week, yes.
Okay. Overall, I did not. This was the only time that I've announced on air that I did not have many complimentary things to say about Dynamite. And last week's episode was the first time in history that I changed the channel to watch NXT and then chose to watch Dynamite later.
That sounds big words there. See, and which was interesting because I actually liked last week's Dynamite. I told you guys that I think I may have mentioned it. I thought the flow of the show as far as was pretty good, especially in comparison to tonight's 30-minute opener, which we'll get there. But I mean, that's interesting.
Let me ask you this, because you're now around the wrestling orbit, but you're kind of like the fan perspective of this show, and then we got the insider perspective. When you were a fan, prior to all this, what did you watch? Like, what was your go-tos? Were you a PWG guy, New Japan? What did you watch?
I've been watching Impact since inception. I tried to watch Ring of Honor, couldn't get into it because of production value. New Japan, I got into it. I tried to watch that, but there's not enough English characters for me to try and relate to as an American myself, so it's a little bit harder to get into the content of the program. Plus, there's different style of wrestling, less story, right, more action. So I think it was mainly before I started doing any podcasting 6-7 years ago, it was just WWE and Impact is what I was watching.
What about on an indie level? Did you have any indie promotions that you love to watch or follow?
I was
a mainstream guy.
No, I mean, I did watch Championship Wrestling from Arizona because my buddy Joe Vernola, who I do the podcast with, I've known him for the last 8-9 years, worked for them and David Marquez, United Wrestling and whatnot. Mm-hmm. So I watched Championship Wrestling from Hollywood in Arizona, but that was about it.
Okay. So here's where I think that whole fan disconnect comes in. The people that like the indie style that was becoming fashionable within the last few years, the Janellas, the Joey Ryans, the Being the Elite, all those kind of wackier things that were kind of new to the wrestling audience, right?
Right.
That audience was the ones that started consuming AEW. And most of that audience continues to consume it. However, some of that audience dropped off for a variety of reasons.
Right.
My theory on that is the pacing. They lost the sight of the slower long-term storytelling, moved to a more frenetic pace with a lot of moving parts. If you ask me, that's why people are fading a little bit. They still have the most of their core group. However, the downside of that is when you're marketing to one level of fans, it's going to be hard for you to get more fans. It's going to be hard for you to get the mainstream fans, the WWE fans, the people that don't know who Joey Janela is, that don't know what the Dick Flip is, doesn't watch PWG. And that's the problem AEW is going to run into unless they return back to their more traditional storytelling basis stuff and cut out some of the more indie stuff. Bro, there's a reason why indie promotions draw 50 to 500, a giant indie. If you hear 500 people are at an indie show, you're going to be like, holy shit, 500 people. That's great. But there's a reason why there's 500 people, even at a great indie show, and not 10,000 people at that show. Budgets, production value, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So you can't have a mainstream indie show because it's niche. It would be like you and I starting a show and all we did was comedy matches. We're going to be the comedy wrestling show. The people that like comedy matches, they'll dig it. Kika, what's that guy's name? Kikacharu or something? We'll get him on it. We'll get Cabana on it. We'll get Ryan Nemeth. But if you don't like comedy wrestling, you ain't going to like it.
No, that's a good point, that their core group itself is essentially what's continuing to follow and support the brand. I think that, to your point, I didn't really watch Pro Wrestling Guerrilla or any of the other MCW, Maryland Championship Wrestling, maybe any of the other big time indie feds myself personally. I just wasn't really into it. I did watch Lucha Underground. I guess is kind of closely tied to that California style and scene, if you will. But other than that, I really wasn't into the indie scene itself. And for that reason, whether you go to the match and maybe the guys aren't as fine-tuned in the ring, so the matches don't move as well or look as well when they're performing the moves. Maybe it looks a little sloppy, which we see on AEW from time to time with some of these individuals who maybe aren't ready for television. So, there's a lot of disconnect. I agree. As I was watching, not last week, it was a couple weeks ago, I was watching AEW, and I went, man, this really is kind of like an indie match right now. I'm watching on TV. This shouldn't be on TV. This is TNT television. Hopefully, AEW can get back to just basic storytelling, right, of what professional wrestling is.
And Matt, that's not a knock. Let's make that clear. That's not a knock on indie wrestlers. There's a lot of great indie wrestlers, and I love indie wrestling. I legitimately love it. However, there is a transition period that's needed. I needed the same thing. When I got to OVW, I had no idea how to work television. You have to understand the placements. You have to understand the cameras. You have to learn going in and out of breaks. You have to learn what things are acceptable in a TV match, what's not acceptable in a TV match. It's a completely different education. So when you pull guys fresh out of indies, they might have been able to entertain the indie crowd, but now they got to learn this whole new set of skills. There's a reason why WWE sends even the best indie stars to NXT first.
Right, and that's a good point. I mean, even a guy like Killer Cross, who still had television time on Impact, he's still sent to NXT. Really, the only guy that hasn't been sent to NXT that's become a big star over the last 10 years is AJ Styles, but he's an anomaly. Everybody else went through NXT. So, you know what I mean? So,
and I bet you if it were a different time, AJ might have been sent there. I think it was just a perfect storm for him.
It was perfect storm, IWGP Championship, big matches with Nakamura. WWE was interested in Nakamura at the time anyway, so that probably helped him as well. And then you got the Good Brothers in. So let's talk about some of the YouTube numbers here before we get into the show. AEW Dynamite YouTube viewership, though, was down as well. About 1 million. They were down from 4,019,000 to 3,020,000. The most viewed video was Mike Tyson returning last week with the Inner Circle. That got 1 million views. The least viewed match was that Godzilla versus Kong match that they did. And the average viewership, that was the match, actually. I think that's what it was. I was watching last week's match. I'm like, this is on TV? Like, this shouldn't be on TV right here. The overall viewership average for all of you is, for the video is 350,000. So just some of your numbers there, your recap here before we start. Let's get into AEW Dynamite review from April 14th.
Oh, you got a juicy news story.
Oh, that's right. I did. I sent this over to you. That's right. I sent this over to you. So for those unaware, if you don't hang out in the How Many Media discussion group on Facebook, you should jump over there. Because if you did, you'd be getting all the hot news that comes out from Mr. Hot Sauce William Alessio. So Alessio has posted yesterday that Eva Lise had issued a statement to Fightful about her release from AEW. She goes on to say that I spoke up about mistreatment from a coach, even to the other women. There were witnesses, and I was the one suspended and left in limbo, and just now let go. And nothing has been done about the entire time about Thunder Rosa slandering my name the entire time in AEW and doing everything to sabotage my position there. I kept quiet. I have a history with her, and I didn't want to get it out of order. And then she goes on to say that has a history of getting involved with officials in order to get ahead with their. Thunder Rosa has a history of getting involved with officials in order to get ahead, which there was a lawsuit and everything about that came out in Lucha Underground. Based on several sources, though, Eva Lise has had a history of disagreements throughout her career and has been viewed as hard to work with by some. So it's very interesting, both sides, because obviously, you're a little bit closer tied to one of the wrestlers, Thunder Rosa. But what do you think in the situation? I mean, obviously there's going to be some, as you talked about at the beginning of the show, some telephone tag, right? He said, she said, things probably get taken out of context, things get miscommunicated. I mean, do you have any thoughts on it, though?
Those lines that she said about Thunder Rosa, what does that sound like to you when you read that?
Somebody who's bitter, who's upset, they lost their job.
It comes across as kind of petty, very, women talking shit on other women or guys talking shit on other guys. That's what it sounded like to me. I've met Eva Lise many times. She has a very hard exterior. Just based on what I see, she doesn't look like the kind of person that lets people in very much. I'm sure she has her own reasons as to why that is, and it's not my place to speculate. But she was always polite anytime I met her. You could tell she's a tough cookie, but she was always nice. I've heard many, many times different struggles of people having difficulty putting matches together with her and promotions managing her. I can say with a pretty great degree of certainty that there was a rumor going around, but not a rumor, but going around the AEW women's locker room when people would find out they had to work with Eva Lise, other people were like, oh, good luck. Like, it was a well-known thing that if you had a match with her, it might be difficult to put it together. I can't give away too much because I don't want to get anyone in trouble, but
right.
From what I've heard from people that are affiliated within the locker room there was some kind of argument with her and Billy Gunn, I believe was the name that was mentioned, who might have been agenting one of their matches. I don't know what was said that made her make the comments that she did, but from what I understand, the coach that she mentioned may well be Billy Gunn.
Interesting. Well, hopefully there's no additional fallout from it, and all the parties can hopefully move on amicably, and hopefully maybe in the future Eva Lise can work with AEW on any other promotion. Certainly don't want to see someone lose their job.
No.
But especially when she hasn't really done anything wrong, in the world. It just sounds like she's got a hard exterior shell, and maybe she needs to be massaged a little bit when working with versus just being, I guess, having a wall against others.
Are you still on the market?
Am I still on the what?
On the market?
Am I still on the market? I mean, yeah. I mean, I'm single.
All right. Well, maybe I can make a couple calls. She needs a gentle, loving, sensitive man who likes wrestling. You might be the thing for her.
I'll be the mouthpiece. Yeah. All right. Well, guys, let's get into AEW Dynamite from April 14th, 2021.
Dun, 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 dun.
All right, LightTheFuse AEW recap from April 14th, 2021. And Silvio, they announced for tonight's show, they gave us a couple previews what was going to happen. They announced that Mike Tyson will be the special enforcer for the Chris Jericho and Dax Harwood match, as well as Christian had a open challenge that he announced. But we started tonight with a AEW World Tag Team Championship match. The Young Bucks taking on Pac and Rey Fenix from Death Triangle. First thing right off the bat, I do like the fact that they changed their outfits, that being the Young Bucks. They got rid of the frills and they went to the all white, kind of matching their shoes or Adidas Yeezys or whatever, that look. I did like the music. I wish they had done something different there. Maybe, throughout the next couple of weeks, it's a gradual change. But I didn't like the Super Kick Party still. I wanted a different, darker Young Bucks song. 30-minute match, though, man. This was a 30-minute match to kick off AEW Dynamite. And it was long. I'm not saying I didn't enjoy the match. I'm saying about 15, 20 minutes in, I started to lose attention just because there was a lot of stuff that was going on. And ultimately, though, the Young Bucks do pick up the victory. I mean, we kind of knew going into this match that they weren't going to lose the championship, especially after they just turned heel and they're hyping it up all week, right? With interviews, they even did I think they started the show with the Young Bucks. Everyone wants to know why we did it. So they were kind of like recapping why they made their heel turn. The match wasn't bad. It was just long. But yes, Young Bucks win. What did you think, Silvio?
You're right. The match was incredibly long. I had kind of mixed feelings about this match. It got significantly better after the hot tag, which I believe went to Rey Fenix. He made a nice comeback. Then they had some really cool false finishes and exciting stuff before the finish. I thought that was good. I agree with you. I like the Young Bucks' new gear. It's fitting. I like them coming out with Callus. Here's the thing that the Bucks are going to have to figure out. I'm glad they're heels now, and we're finally defining their character. So we no longer have the ping pong effect of the Young Bucks where we don't know whether we're supposed to cheer or boo them.
Right.
The Bucks need to learn how to work in the ring as heels. I think they understand it, and I know they're as big a wrestling fan as I am, so I guarantee they watch the same amount of footage that I watch. They probably have watched everything from the 70s until today, and maybe even further than that. When you're working, and this is a good learning opportunity for some of our wrestlers out there listening and some of the people that come to us to figure out how this shit works, right? There's a different way that you will perform a match when you're a heel versus when you're a babyface. Easy example I can give of that. If I were agenting this match, I would have had the first 10 minutes of the match been all Rey Fenix and Pac. The Bucks try to do their shit, but the babyfaces are better because they're the babyface. And they're both incredible. Rey Fenix can do anything. Pac's amazing. So I would have made them look like $1 million, then figure out a way to involve Don Callis or something shitty, heelish to cut off either Rey Fenix or Pac. And then once they're beaten down, the Young Bucks come in, punch, kick, beat the shit out of them. Now that they're weakened, then they can start getting in some of their fancier stuff, their tag moves and things like that. A lesson that was taught to me is when you're a heel, you don't want to seem equally athletic and equally as impressive as the babyface's offense because you want their offense to stand out. if we're both doing equally good stuff, is there anything that the crowd is going to hate about the fact that we're both doing equally good stuff, Matt? What do you think?
No, not really. It's kind of you're at an impasse at that point. You have kind of a struggle, right, of who to cheer for and who to boo for.
Yep,
I mean,
so
did you?
Let's say it's you and I in a match. I'm the heel, you're the babyface. You give me a shooting star press off the top. Then I come in and I give you a 450 off the top rope. Does the audience at that point have anything to boo or get mad about?
No, because we both just amazing moves.
And what would the audience probably do after watching each of those moves?
This is awesome. Clap, clap, clap. That was amazing. You know,
what do heels not want?
They do not want adulation.
So that was the disconnect for me. And the Bucks are smart motherfuckers. I put them over on this show all the time. And if you guys are listening, don't take this as a knock because I got all the respect for you in the world. But I know you guys can be the best you guys could be the best goddamn heel tag team in the business. You're smarmy little heels. You have attitude. You do all the fuck everything promos. Like, it's built in. Just show some more ass. Let the baby faces whoop your ass more, cheat to get on top, and then get your shit in. Hollywood Hogan was the perfect example of this. Hulk Hogan, the babyface, was indestructible. When he turned into Hollywood, he was the biggest pussy ever. And he got more heat than fucking anyone in the business at that time. So there's the line there. But after the comeback, really good.
What did you think of the finish, the heel finish, with them pulling Phoenix's mask off and then hitting the double super kick to finish?
I liked it. I was down with it.
Yeah, I like that as well. As we point out, a little bit long. They probably could have cut out like 15 minutes and then just gave us that finish. And it was still, I think, still got the point across of the Young Bucks turning heel. And I liked that finish of the mask. I thought it was pretty good. Good idea. So that was how we opened AEW, if you will, with the Young Bucks winning. We then kicked it over to Marvez with the Dark Order and Hangman Page. Page gets a question from Marvez about, what do you think about Kenny Omega joining Callis, and what do you think about the Young Bucks joining Callis, and essentially trying to get out of Hangman. Hey, all your friends are rejoining back up. What are you gonna do? Hangman was like, I'm gonna go get some egg rolls, guys. So he leaves the scene, goes and gets some egg rolls, and then Daddy Hungry did his muscle workout, his therapy. That's how that scene ended. Just a quick thing. I don't know if there's anything else. Did you want to comment on that?
Nope.
Okay. We then go commercial break. We come back. We have Marvez is now with the Inner Circle. Mike Tyson. Jericho says, they have changed their ways. And Jericho called Mike Tyson, told him that he owed him an apology. And he said the first person he called was Mike Tyson. He says that he doesn't expect special treatment. Tyson says that the best man will win. He will take no sides. They shake hands. I like the part where Jericho is now, looks like it's becoming a reoccurring thing. He says the pineapple, and Santana gets in his ear and tells him, no, it's the Pinnacle. I'm like, so it's the Pinnacle. That popped Marvez today. Last night I caught that. Marvez had to put his head down because he was trying not to laugh. So I thought it was a good little promo, and it kind of gave us a reason why is Mike Tyson and Chris Jericho after all these years now reconvening? They at least, put that question to bed. Do you have any quick notes on it? Did you
I would have liked to have seen Jericho opening by saying, "Hey, hey, Alex," kind of checking himself. I just thought it was interesting that Jericho did a legit babyface promo.
Yeah, it was a babyface promo. He was putting over Mike.
Straight babyface.
Yep. Putting over Mike Tyson, putting over the fact that Mike Tyson was going to call right down the middle. He's a man of honor, etc. Yeah, it was a very babyface promo. Mike jerk off of a friend. I like how he's still referring to MJF as his friend still. Like, it's my jerk off of a friend.
Not a jerk off of, my jerk off friend.
My jerk off friend. You're right. That's
now it has double meaning. You're like, what exactly does that mean?
That's a good point.
You jerk off?
Do they back to back circle around? Is that why it's called the Inner Circle?
That's why they were all in the bathroom when the fucking Pinnacle showed up.
That's right. That's right. So Red Velvet makes her way down to the ring as she's up next to take on Jade Cargill. Red Velvet looked a lot better this week. I don't know whether it was just changing her hair or her outfit. She doesn't look like a Brandy Rhodes doppelganger further. So good for her. Changed up her look here. But this match was a quick match. Jade Cargill picked up the victory. They did have a picture-in-picture. But Cargill hit the Jaded, her finisher. After Velvet missed a moonsault from the top rope, and Jade Cargill picked up the victory. Do you have any notes on this match?
Yep. A lot of upside to both of these girls, and they both could be breakout stars. Jade Cargill's money. She's got money written all over her. What I appreciate the most about Jade is she understands the cameras and how to use them to her benefit. So if you go back and watch this match, after Jade would do whatever, she'd take the time to get her character over and take the time to acknowledge the viewers in the camera. As a coach, one of the hardest things that I struggle with getting people to do is slow down after they do something to let it register and show how they feel about it. You think of fucking Stone Cold. If he were to give somebody something big, he's going to react to it. He's not just going to jump on them right away. He's going to do his head shake or middle fingers or whatever. The change I would have made to this is I would have made it much shorter. Right now, you have to be you have to protect Jade very, very, very well. The worst thing you could do right now is expose Jade's inexperience. She can't help that she's inexperienced. She's trying. She's clearly working hard. There were some moments during the match where you could see it, and it's not her fault. It's just reality. If I started trying to do your job as master controller, there'd be shit that I'd be doing wrong left and right. But maybe after a few years, if I learn it, sure, I could be on your level. That's what they need to understand about wrestling. Like, don't expect people to know things that only are learned in time. So I would have had that match be much shorter. If you want a long match out of Jade just to test her and see how she's progressing, she's got to be in there with the vet, like a Serena Deeb kind of leader that can cover up any areas. Only mistakes I saw from Jade are simply timing and experience. That was it. Everything else she did to the best of her abilities, and she did well. But y'all be careful. Protect her. If you want a big star on your hands, protect that woman.
Protect that woman for sure. Well, after that, we have Tony Schiavone backstage with Britt Baker. Baker goes through the ranking system, makes her case that she should be elevated to number 2. She says she will be wrestling on Dark Elevation on Monday, and we can finally get a role model as the AEW Women's Champion. Quick little promo here from Britt Baker, but putting over the fact that she thinks the ranking system is flawed, that she should be at the top of the ranking system because she's, 7-1 and Jade Cargill's 5-2? How come I'm not ahead of her? Makes a good point here. So, and a good little promo. And Rebel, of course, there with the background doing the DND. Perfect.
Rebel got her new shirt, too. Look at her getting over there.
She looks like she's lost some weight, too, since the last time I watched the episode. She looked really good. A lot of women on there. There's a couple women on the show. We'll get to another one I thought looked really good, too. So, she looked like she's getting into ring action, maybe. Who knows? Well, next up, we had another match. Anthony Ogogo makes his entrance, accompanied by the Factory, QT Marshall's clan. Did you see any people online making any jokes over the fact that WWE got a gold medalist, but AEW could only get a bronze medalist? No.
I don't do the social media thing anymore, so I miss this lovely comment.
I thought that was just a little funny. I'm being childish and making that joke, but it was hilarious. But Anthony Ogogo, not to take anything away from him, he is a bronze gold medalist for boxing, making his debut here for AEW. This was against Cole Carter. I'm assuming a local gentleman or an individual who went through the QT Marshall Factory. I would assume they probably wouldn't.
Let's stick with local gentlemen. I like
local gentlemen. Well, and this was a quick match. This was just a hype up show off Anthony Ogogo match. He picks up the victory here, or I guess the ref called for the bell, but he picked up the victory by referee stoppage with a big body shot to Carter. So I like that. If that's the gimmick they're going to give him, where he just delivers knockout punches, I think that's kind of cool. It separates himself from a traditional got to get the pinfall victory. Now you got to watch out because this dude could just straight knock you out.
I love the simplicity of that concept. The only place that I feel like was a miss on it, he gave him that gut shot, and the kid sold it pretty well, but it wasn't clear that that was the finish. When the match was stopped, there was a moment in my mind that was like, wait a minute, what just happened? And I'm watching with Jenna, and she's also like, what just happened? It dawned on me very quickly what they were attempting to do, but we needed the headshot. We needed it. Go, bam. Yeah, hit him with that gut shot. Boom. Wait on him all day to get up. When he does, bam, he's out. The referee jumps in like a UFC fight, calls that shit off, knockout victory. It wasn't big and visual enough. I think they should have him hitting people upstairs now.
Now, this would just be pure speculation. Obviously, I'm not backstage. We're not backstage. We don't know how it laid out maybe last night. I think, though, looking at the whole show, though, Sylvia, is there an argument to be made that by him doing the body shot, it was better last night because then when Tyson hits his knockout punch later in the face, you know what I'm saying? There's a different dichotomy, I guess, of boxing punches maybe, like his body punch, his body shot doesn't, or if Anthony Ogogo had knocked somebody out, is his punch gonna overshadow Tyson's or vice versa?
That could be argued. I'd say the difference is that he was a wrestler working in a wrestling match. So had he done it, I don't think it would have changed anything with Tyson later because Tyson is Tyson. And think about this. Most American viewers have no idea who Anthony Ogogo is. And we're just telling him he's a bronze medal boxing champion. They don't know if it's a work or not or whatever. And Mike Tyson, everybody knows the baddest man alive. So I still would have had him go upstairs. And think about this too. I don't even think that it could have been. You could be right, but I don't even think that was a thought in anyone's mind. Every week on Dynamite, we have people doing the same move in match after match. The same run. We had the same run-in segments this week. Like they're always repeating shit. I highly doubt anybody was like, let's save the punch for Tyson. They might have, and if they did, I understand. But I don't think that was the case in my opinion.
Well, following that, we have a promo package here. So I didn't watch the Best Friends versus Kip Sabian Miro Arcade Extravaganza. I know Mr. Hameen wasn't too high on that match.
Oh, you liked that one.
Oh, he did?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
We both put that one over.
Oh, okay. Well, it looks like here the relationship has dissolved between Miro and Kip Sabian, and I cannot say thank God enough because I did not need to see Kip Sabian playing video games anymore on AEW. If he wants to do that on his Twitch, hang out with his fans, that's cool, whatever. But I don't need to see the Bulgarian Bruiser on television playing Donkey Kong. And I'm glad that he cuts this pretty vicious promo basically saying, I'm moving on with or without you, Kip. I haven't seen you since the match. You're basically proclaiming himself, I am the best man, and I'm coming after AEW gold. So awesome. I'm excited. I don't know, where that puts Miro in the world title hunt because right now you've got a heel faction kind of heading that up. But I think him versus Darby Allin revisiting that and setting up that babyface heel matchup could be fun to watch.
I agree. Miro should be a champion of some kind. I do think, in my opinion, he'll be a future AEW world champion. Could be a good idea, to your point, to have it be with Darby first. He beats Darby. You get the next babyface who's ready. Miro loses to him en route to whoever's the champ at the time.
Yeah, I mean, especially if it kind of seems like we're not done with Mox and Omega yet, so it looks like they're going to be circling back to that as well. So kind of already looks like they've got an inline built-in feud continuing forward with that. I'm assuming it's going to probably be, but Mox got taken out last week. He didn't show up this week, so he's going to come back with Kingston, and I'm assuming some sort of group will be created to take on the brand new reformation of the club, the Bullet Club, the Elite, whatever you want to call it.
And you got to think too, Miro knows how to work like a heel, and he's going to get heat. I think Miro as the heel champion would get so much fucking heat because he doesn't do the AEW stuff. He doesn't do the moves that crowd likes.
Right.
And they're going to, he's a WWE guy. Like, there's so much built-in heat, and all Miro has to do is play into it. No, I don't need to do these stupid flips and fucking high spots. I'm going to kick people and fucking knock them out. Boo! for me, I'm over here throwing a party. I got confetti, balloons. Ooh, a heel, an actual heel. Ooh. Nero.
That's right. No, I think he would be. He'd be Bill's and heel. That's a good point. Before we get into the next match, just want to shout out to the chat room. Thanks for joining us live right here today, guys, on Hameen Media Group YouTube. As if you haven't been paying attention to any of our social media, that's okay. Some people don't use social media, like Chris Silvio. You don't check everything, but we have not been on Hacker Hameen Podbean feed the last couple weeks, due in part to the fact they've been targeting us for copyright issues, even though we're paying to use the service. It's not a free service. We're paying to use the service. And on top of that, Anchor also has a deal with Spotify. So it's okay for one podcast company to play the music. It's free, but for us who are paying for it, we can't play a snippet. Anyway, I'm getting off into a diatribe. We're unfortunately not on Hacker Hameen. Our second affiliate podcast channel is still up, Hameen Media Group, so check that out. New Force Order podcast, Star Wars podcast, Star Trek podcast, South Park, Right Opinion podcast, The War on Morons, Rat Salad Review. Check out our second affiliate account. That's still up, but if you are trying to keep up to date with the Monday Locker Room, the Wednesday Locker Room, the Friday Locker Room, any of our fantastic shows here, the NXT Review, Impact Attack, go to patreon.com/Hameen Media Group. It's free. We're just posting the shows up there for free. If you want to support us and get the additional content, such as the FR podcast with Rip Rogers and any of the other Ben Hameen tiers, you can sign up there at patreon.com/Hameen Media Group. Anyway, let's get into the next match here. We've got Chris Jericho being accompanied to the ring by Sammy Guevara, taking on Dax Harwood. Dax Harwood being accompanied by the other guy, Cash. Unfortunately, Tully could not stand out there. He had to play the game. Oh, what's going on? He has to go to the back. Mike Tyson is your ring enforcer. So the match, it was a tag team match. I kind of knew Chris Jericho obviously was going to win this match.
It was a singles match, Matthew.
Sorry, it was a singles match. I apologize. It was everybody that was out there and everybody got involved. So the Pinnacle come out at one point. The Inner Circle followed, attacked. Huge brawl breaks out on stage. Cash was with the bat. Tyson stopped him from attacking with a huge right hand, knocked him out. And then Jericho hit the Judas effect for the victory. So Chris Jericho and the Inner Circle celebrated as Chris Jericho won. And then even Chris Jericho announced that Mike Tyson is now an honorary member of the Inner Circle. What do you think of this match?
There you have it. No, I liked it. Dax is great. The audience knows how I feel about Jericho. I've been a fan of his for years. Currently, Harwood is probably one of my favorites to watch just because his technique is on point. I like how they did the deal where Tyson took weapons off of each of them to show that he is calling it down the line. They did a lot of shortcuts in this match. They did a lot more brawling and fighting around the crowd than I expected. I thought I was going to get more of a wrestling match with these two. I guess I can understand why, because they've both been attacking each other and it's reaching the point where fisticuffs are needed. But I think with the two of them, had they went a little bit more classic pro wrestling approach and then did some of the violent stuff, I think it would have been a lot more engaging matchup, but still really good. The only thing I would have changed is that thing at the end where they had everybody run out. I liked how they had, they set up Wheeler to try to hand the weapon over and Tyson thwarted it and punched him. That punch was great. And then Jericho over with the Judas effect. But I don't think we needed 10 people to come out to set up that spot. It could have simply been done by Tully Blanchard. Tully could have walked down, drawing the referee to tell him, no, get out of here, you're done. While the ref's looking over there, here comes Wheeler with the weapon. Tyson pulls it, drops him, Judas effect, 1, 2, 3, and Tully's sitting there with his hands on his head. Oh, fuck, I can't believe it didn't work.
Right. Especially because they're already going to have another schmoz fest with more people out later as well in the main event. So, yeah, there's a
Still think they were thinking about Tyson's punch in a go-go?
Not there. I think maybe they got to the Tyson punch and that's where they stopped. You know what I'm saying? Like they just didn't think about the main event after that.
We can't have two things that just happen in one match. Ridiculous.
That's ridiculous. Well, Marvez is backstage with Omega and the Elite. Callis says, hit the bricks. Callis says that just when you think you've seen it all, you haven't seen anything when the Bucks joined the fold. It wasn't the end of the story. It's just the beginning. Omega takes the mic, says that they've never changed. They just got sick of doing what they wanted them to do. Where they go, the gold will follow. Matt says that they are the best tag team in the world. Callan says to prepare to be surprised again. And then this is where it should have ended as far as the promo. It should just faded to black. But then the Young Bucks pretended they were going to super kick the cameraman, and they didn't. And then maybe that's where it should have ended, like them laughing, ha ha, and then walking out. But no, Don Callis super kicked the cameraman. That's cool. So then that,
no, it's not. To whom is that cool?
It was not cool. It was stupid. It was a little cheesy.
Name one 18 to 34-year-old wrestling fan that was like, oh, that was cool.
There wasn't. I don't know if there was anybody. It was dumb. But I guess that's what it's supposed to be, to get heel heat, right? To make you hate Callis even furthermore. So if he did his job, he did his job.
I like the promo a lot. And I'll tell you this, I'm becoming a bigger Kenny Omega as a heel fan by the week. I've always respected his work and have been very complimentary of his matches on this show. But Kenny is the things I talked about earlier about figuring out how to work as a heel. Every week I see Kenny's in-ring psychology as a heel improving, and he still does cool shit, but he makes sure the other guy looks way cooler. And his promos are getting there too. I think the Bucks should kind of talk with Kenny and the Good Brothers and just kind of figure that out. Like, okay, how are we going to portray ourselves as a group? Bounce ideas off of each other, share knowledge off each other. Anderson and Gallows are the same way. They know how to work like heels. They are heels. But yeah, I love the pairing of all of them, and the promo was good.
Opinion, however, to answer your question, would it have been cool if he kicked above the knee height? Yes, if they'd gone to the shot, like if we'd seen a full screen shot of him kicking the knee high into the cameraman, I would think I would have been okay. Like just a little shin kick. I don't know. That would have been.
They should have had Dawn. I'm going to do a visual demonstration for you guys here in my office. They should have had Dawn super kick and fucking tear his groin, and Omega's going crazy. We need doctors out here. You need an ice pack.
There you go.
He should have pulled his groin.
Should have pulled his groin. He shouldn't have gotten any heat on the cameraman. That's what you're saying. All right. Well, after that, guys, we have a Thunder Rosa video package after a commercial. She wants to win both the AEW and NWA Women's Championships. Where has Serena Deeb been, Silvio?
She's had an injury that she's been healing up. I think she should be about good to go any day now.
Okay. Hopefully we'll see her back. We didn't really get, other than Hikaru Shida hyping up her match against the Tay Conti video package, we really didn't get any AEW Women's Championship mentioned on this show. So to bring it up because I know we're missing Serena Deeb there. Well, we get Chris Statlander making her way down to the ring along with the Best Friends. She's now joined the Best Friends crew. If you didn't see last week's episode, that being Orange Cassidy, she's now part of the clique with them, and Chucky T and Taylor. Amber Nova is already in the ring. Now, you want to talk about somebody who took the time off, and while they were off, got into shape, got good ring gear, and came back looking like a star. Chris Statlander did that. Like in the ring, I looked at it, I was like, this is an action figure. Her look, her style, the star over the eye and everything. She looked good. Even JR put it over. Damn, goddamn, Chris Statlander came back in the best shape of her life. Looking great. So she looked awesome. This was a great reintroduction match. It was a bump and feed match, right? I think the term that the other girl was doing, just bumping and feeding for Chris Statlander, and Statlander picks up the victory with her alien-style package pile driver tombstone, and she gets the win like 4 or 5 minutes. It was a quick match. I liked it. What do you think, Sylvia?
Poor JR didn't even know how to phrase the fact that he was just trying to say she looks great.
Right.
I don't know what political correct, but she tightened up, lost a little weight. She's in great conditioning. This is the best we've ever seen her look. That'll work.
Right.
I have to admit, I am liking the new music. At first, I didn't like it, but now it's really growing on me, and it works for Statlander. She worked a much slower pace without doing too much fast movement, high risk things, which is going to be great for her longevity and fits her size. So I appreciated that. She looked like a star. She worked like a star. Amber Nova is a Florida girl, very nice girl, works her ass off. I thought Nova did a very good job doing what she needed to do to help Chris get over that night. So kudos to her. I just ran into her at WrestleCon this weekend. So she's keeping busy. That finish that Statlander used, Matt, I was having a little bit of a debate on this. Has she done that before? Was that her old finish, or is that something new?
I don't know off the top of my head if that was something that she's done consistently as far as like a signature move. Did you like it, or did you thought that it didn't fit well for her?
If anybody in the chat knows, or any of our listeners, shoot us a message and let me know. No, I found it interesting. I could give you more details on it later. It looked fine, but I didn't know if it was if she'd been doing it for a while or not.
I'm seeing if I can find anything here on the interwebs while we're looking. I guess it says that she uses a 450 splash and inverted pile driver as finishers, respectively called Area 451 and the Big Bang Theory.
Yeah, maybe.
So maybe she was using the 450 before. So maybe that might have been the first time she used it on Dynamite, as far as we've seen the pile driver. But that was probably her best outing too, as well. So it's going to be a little more, I think, more memorable for us, like looking back on it versus her previous runs here in AEW. Well, after the Chris Statlander quick match there with Amber Nova, and yeah, Amber Nova did a really great job. I kept watching that match, and I'm being a cynic as I'm waiting for somebody to mess up, but nobody messed up. It was a great match.
She's a talented worker, man.
Well, Dasha is with Team Taz. Taz says that they have been waiting a week for Christian to answer their offer. Stark says they shouldn't have to wait. Taz says both Starks and Cage should wait because while they get an answer from they'll wait backstage. While they get an answer from Christian Cage. We go to commercial break. We come out. Tony Schiavone's in the ring. Brings out Christian Cage. Cage says it's a huge. I don't want to say Christian, so I won't get Brian mixed up. Christian says it's a huge thrill to be interviewed by Tony. And I thought that was pretty cool. That was a cool little moment, a little moment in history of professional wrestling we've never seen. What I believe while Edge and Christian did do some time in WCW, they never got to the height of popularity to where they would have been interviewed by Tony Schiavone. So that was a cool moment for Christian, I thought, and just as a wrestling fan to see Tony Schiavone, Christian, and he put that over as well. Christian says the Team Taz is, as he's interrupted because Team Taz comes out, Taz gets in his face. I want an answer now. I'm tired of waiting. I gave you all week. Give me your answer. And Christian was like, well, I was going to be professional about this and do this in the back. But since you need an answer now, as you've said it before, Team Taz is a bit of a dumpster fire. And I basically tells him, I'm glad you're standing on the stage so we can stand eye to eye. And says no. He says he came to win AEW, to win championships. Calls Christian a shithead. Calls Christian ungrateful, respectful, says
you're a shithead, bro.
Yeah, you're a shithead, bro. Riding the coattails of your partner up. Then Powerhouse Hobbs steps into the ring with Christian. They brawl before Hobbs takes down a distracted Christian. Then drives him into the barricade twice. Hobbs presses Christian's face first onto the mat and then slams his head onto the steel steps. And then Team Taz leaves Christian lane. Now, I don't mind that Hobbs got the big, beat down here. But I thought this was going to be an open match, so I was excited to see Christian wrestle. And then we didn't get to see Christian wrestle last night. So.
And Hook was there. Don't forget Hook.
And Hook was there. Did you like this segment at least? The setup for next week, Hobbs versus Christian. It looks like it's going to be Christian's first feud, him versus the Team Taz. And I'm assuming if he's after championships, we're going to get Cage versus Cage for the FTW championship.
I like Hook.
Okay, that's all you got on this segment. Okay, all right. Well, there's a video package that I mentioned, Tay Conti versus Shida, that's going to be taking place next week for the AEW Women's Championship. We go to commercial break and we come back to our main event. Matt Hardy taking on Darby Allin in a no holds barred, no disqualification, false count anywhere match. Silvio, I got to tell you, the first 10 minutes of this match before they went to commercial break was fantastic. I really liked the match between Matt Hardy and Darby Allin and the story they were telling with the chair. I just wanted to see that. I wanted to see that.
And what happened, Matthew?
And then we got a big schmoz fest with everybody interfering. And we stopped telling the story of the chair between Darby Allin and Matt Hardy. Like I said, that was they were telling a great back and forth of Matt Hardy pulls the chair out right away to start the match. Has a hard time using it, then starts using it. And just in comparison, from a professional, from watching somebody who doesn't maybe do as many chair matches to a guy like Matt Hardy. When Matt Hardy swings the chair, letting the momentum of the chair come down onto the person's back, hearing that swap that it makes, seeing the welds that it leaves, I don't know, it brought back that 90s little nostalgia for me as a kid of hearing the actual chair, hitting down on the back of Darby. And then Darby did a good job using the chair right back on Matt Hardy as well. But then we got some interference from different teams. We had Team Taz come out and they interfered. And then was it the Dark Order? Or not the Dark Order. Yeah, Dark Order comes out, they interfere. And then we go to commercial break. And while that's going on, I'm thinking, okay, maybe they just did this distraction to set up for the commercial break, right? That way there's something to watch that's going on. But no, because as we come back from commercial break, they're still brawling. Sting's brawling with like different guys. Lance Archer.
Butcher and Blade were out there too. Like that.
Butcher and Blade come out.
Matt Hardy's group.
Sorry, Matt Hardy's group came out.
Dark Order.
And Dark Order, that's what came out. So I'm getting all these teams mixed up. Sorry. So Matt Hardy's group comes out, Money Matt and Hardy Incorporated, and then Dark Order because they're feuding against each other. Lance Archer came out because last week after Sting told him that he's impressed by him or likes him. Now Lance Archer's trying to win the affection of Sting, so he comes out and
Sting's out too.
Right. So after all this kerfuffle and schmozzfest and everything that happens, then Sting gives Darby the bat before leaving. Darby tries to use the bat, but Matt takes advantage. He starts beating him up, and then this is coming. Darby's a superhero. He took a DDT through a chair, or a twist of fate, I'm sorry. And then Matt Hardy jumped off a ladder and leg dropped him. Both times went for a pinfall attempt, but Darby kicked out. But then Darby, he climbed up the scaffold and did the coffin drop onto Matt Hardy, and Darby Allin picks up the victory. So Darby Allin is still your champion. Yeah. The way that was set up, I get it. They were trying to set up the falsies, right, to make you think that Matt Hardy was going to win. And truthfully, after the beatdown in the beginning and then the two big spots at the end, I expected Hardy to win. And I thought maybe that's what they were going. But no, they just, continuing to set up Darby Allin as a superhero. What do you think?
So it's interesting how you open this. I'll share with you my opening line of notes. They worked a good match for several minutes. Then both gangs came out and I rolled my eyes. Sting cleaned house.
Yep.
Balls count anywhere.
It was great. Everybody came out. I didn't understand. I was like,
so they have the. All right. I'm not going to get upset today. We had the guys come out and they started fighting, and I'm going not this again. Then we have Sting come out and Shivani goes, "It's Sting." And then Sting starts laying people out. Okay, that's cool. At least let him do stuff. Then for some reason, Archer comes out, and we don't know if he's going to beat Sting up or not. But then it looks like he took Sting's side. And then they kind of all fuck off, and Sting hands Darby the bat, which he later loses. And then Darby does the big coffin drop off something high for the win. I love Darby Allin. Matt Hardy's great. I got tons of respect for him. I would have liked to have just seen them have a match.
Yeah,
it's Matt. This is just it's too much. We've been saying this for weeks. Every Sting segment or Darby segment gets interrupted. Team Taz finds a way to get involved there. Now we're doing the same thing, but with Matt Hardy's group. Like, why we cannot just have segments where 20 people don't run in? And if you're gonna do it, by all means, just do it once. Like, it should have just been, if they were going to do it, just leave it in the Tyson segment. Maybe at the end there's a brawl and the baby faces fight him off and Tyson gives the final punch. And then Jericho says, you know what? You're in our group now. But it's too, all right, I am going to get a little hot. Fuck it. It's too much of the same thing all the time with the goddamn interrupted promos and 50 people jumping in the ring after the match. This is why a loyal supporter like me, who's supported the product since day one, bought pay-per-views just to support the boys, speak complimentary on this podcast just to support the boys in the company, encourages wrestling fans to actually watch the shit. These are the kind of things that are making the viewers like me get kind of exhausted. And then it's running off the new viewers and the people that were on the edge about continuing to watch. You got some great wrestlers and you have the capability of telling some great stories, which you have. Stop complicating it. Not every movie is the Quentin Tarantino Pulp Pulp Fiction, 3 stories happening at once weave. It works for Quentin. It worked for that movie. But if every Hollywood movie that came out that year was the same, it would not have worked. Simple.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree. There was I wanted to see that one-on-one match, and you even pointed out there at the end, Darby misplaces the bat. Sting threw you the bat. Like, why didn't the lasting image of Dynamite last night should have been Darby holding up the title and holding up the bat as well. That should have been the ending image, but he didn't have the bat. So I didn't understand why he didn't take pride in the fact that Sting gave him his bat there. So it was a big thing. It's iconic. It's his weapon. So yeah. But that was it. That was AEW. A Canada Spaceman, just so you know, they actually did briefly. Excalibur said it really quickly when the Bucks did the Canadian Destroyer with Phoenix. When Matt and Phoenix did it, Excalibur said it really quickly. He was just like, oh, wow, Canadian Destroyer off the rope. So he actually did say the words Canadian Destroyer. So I don't think it's copyrighted. And I think that the reason why they don't mention Matt Riddle saying the jackhammer is because Goldberg is a bigger star. So they don't want to take away attention from Goldberg. But that's it, guys. AEW, we appreciate you joining us live here in the chat room. Canada Spaceman, Sonic the Hedge right here, Opinion Haver, Frank's Pickle Barrel Ass I saw in here earlier today. Anybody else who dropped by, we appreciate you supporting us here in this time of uncertainty with our podcast. But we will always find a way to deliver that content to you. Of course, like I mentioned, patreon.com/How Media Group. You can check out this podcast later. I'll probably have it up Friday. This YouTube does make 24 hours before I can download a podcast, so we're using YouTube today. So if you want to check it out right here, let your friends know. Come on over to How Many Media Group on YouTube, and you can watch the full replay. I'm the host of the Scene with the Ears Clean. I'm lighting up that green. Your boy, MSG. Each and every week, I host a podcast with all my best friends. It's called Suck My Balls. It's a South Park review. Brand new episode is up right now, episode number 70. It's up on all podcast outlets. We reviewed Cripple Fight, Timmy versus Jimmy, a very iconic fight in animation history, showcasing that just because you're handicapped doesn't mean you can't throw down. So go check out Suck My Balls, episode 70. It's on all podcast outlets. Wednesday Locker Room is up right now on patreon.com/How Many Media Group, as well as I assume we'll be getting Conspiracy Horseman up there and a brand new episode of the Friday Locker Room. Mr. Silvio, what's going on in your world and the world of sunny Florida?
Nice weather this week, man. I'm just enjoying it and recovering from WrestleMania weekend. I'm just doing my thing, man, with training at the Side Dojo. Putting in a few hours a week with some great talent. So just so people are aware, kind of what my focus has been shifting to here is I'm preparing people for television, similar to what Matt and I were discussing earlier about how you take somebody on the indies. There's this whole learning curve to get them TV ready. So right now, my main focus is working with a small group of wrestlers with potential that I can help mold into TV stars and they can have great careers. As far as my online shit, I literally have one space I can put someone in. I can only work a certain amount of hours per week for health reasons. So I wish I could work with all of you, but it just ain't the way it works. So if anyone listening wants to join that online spot or come train here in Tampa, Florida with myself and Seidel, just I do check my Facebook Messenger at Chris Silvio. Maybe every month or so I might check Instagram and Twitter, but don't count on it. So if you need me, hit me up on Facebook Messenger or reach out to Maddie at Hameen Media Group at gmail.com, I think, and he'll get you directed to me. Oh, that's also right. Genocide will be back at Mission Pro next weekend for a revenge match against Holodead, so it should be dope.
Well, guys, How Many Media Group will be back tomorrow with the Impact Attack with Jamie the Vent and Mr. Colin Wysong. So come back here tomorrow on How Many Media Group, as well as, like I said, patreon.com/How Many Media Group. Check out all the amazing other Patreons that How Many Media Group manages. Patreon.com/Stevie Ray TV. The A Show is Damian Sandow, aka Aaron Stevens, and April Hunter. Of course, we've also got the Big Vito brand, the beautiful people. And there's probably a lot more that I'm leaving out here, but that's all I can think about off the top of my head right now. So go ahead and check out all of our different Patreons and continue to be a supporter. We appreciate you here, guys, for another edition of Light the Views. We'll be back next week with our fearless leader, Ben Hameen. Yalla, infidels. Peace out.
Yalla.